In this unit we're going to develop some of your Microsoft Word skills, and today we're going to look at formatting text. So understanding about formatting text, that's how you get the text to look, the style of it, the absolute format. So we'll have a look at some skills that you've learnt before, but some that are going to stretch your knowledge a little bit further, could be used in many different ways in the future. So what you're going to create is a menu for the school canteen. Looking at this example on the screen here, we've got information about snacks, the main meals, add-ons, desserts and drinks, and an offer in the middle. Now you'll notice here that it's written in columns. Menus often are written in columns. We'll look at that. There's a background image that's kind of subtle in the background, although it's obvious. It's not taking over the information from the foreground. We've got a border, we've got a title, and we've used a consistent font, consistent format of our text throughout our work, and that's what we're going to look at as we develop our work in this lesson. A couple other menus to use as examples. You can use many others. The menu on the left here is from a restaurant in London that's the oldest restaurant in London, so it wants a very oldie world look to it, hence the colour scheme it's used. And a more modern menu here. Again, we can see things like the starters all in one section, the main course is another section, and all broken down as that. They've got images, some have more images than others, but use of colours and using a consistent theme throughout the work. So that's what you're looking to produce. Similarly, this is a menu for a like waxing and grooming centre. So although it's not a food menu, it uses the same kind of style, and you can look at that, look at the font that they've used and the way that they've laid that out. So again, it's in columns with titles for each section. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the page orientation. So I'm just opening up a Word document that we've got here. So any Word document, and it's usually in portrait mode, and we're just going to change the orientation to be in landscape mode, and that's down in page layout. So it's depending what version of Word you're in. I can go to my layout and I can just change the orientation to landscape, and that just turns the page around, so we've now got a landscape page rather than a portrait page. So that's the first step that you need to do, so you might want to pause the video and complete that task first. The next stage we're going to look at is in Word they set margins, and this is the space at the top and the left and the right, and it's always a good idea to custom your margins. You can go to narrow, which creates less space at the top and the bottom, but if you wanted to make it your own and a more professional looking document, you can go to custom margins and just change down the top to maybe 1 centimetre, the left to 1 centimetre. So you're giving more space for the information on the actual page. If you go right to the edge, the information might not print out depending on your printer. So you do want to leave a little bit of a margin, a little bit of white space around the outside of your work. But you can change your margins and make them smaller to give you more space. So that's now created or reduced the margins on your actual page. The next stage is to set up columns, and this is where we have the information split up into different areas. So again, we're in the layout, and what we're looking to go to is columns, and this is where you decide how many columns you want in your menu. I'm going to choose 3 for mine here. So now as I type and I go down, I'm just going to go down a number of rows. As we get to the bottom, we then start into the second column, and you can see the information then starting to piece together. So obviously we can edit this with actual information, but you can see how the columns work. You might decide that you want to select all your information, go back to the Home tab and just send to justify all of your work. I only selected 2 columns then, but if I do the third column as well, we'll see that all the information is then centered, which might work better for a menu to have it all centered. So that's something you can do there with the justification. If you want all the information on the left, then you can just choose the left button, select the information and choose that. So that was columns. We're now going to look at Format Painter. Now this is a really handy tool to use in not just Microsoft Word, but in PowerPoint and Excel spreadsheets and other software. Using the Google Suite you can do the same. So you might want your titles, so starter, you might want that to be a set colour, stand out a little bit more. You might want it to be slightly bigger, and you might want these to be bold. Now you're going to want the same format for maybe the main, so what you can do is select the writing and use the Format Painter, and what that does is it copies the formatting, not what's written there but the formatting, and then when you select here and drag over the information, the same formatting will apply to another area. I'll show that again. So we can just select it, click the Format Painter, which is the paintbrush, and then choose that. From here I can just change the writing to what I want it to be. So I've got my next part of my menu appearing. So I've got starters, mains and drinks. So that was using the Format Painter to copy the style of the text, not the actual what the text is. Now this next one is really handy, and it's Superscript and Subscript, and this is a way of when you're writing using the Superscript or Subscript. It's here in the font. I can go to Superscript, click that, and now when I'm writing it's smaller writing above. So like when you do in Maths 5 squared, you can write it in there, and you might want your prices, or you might want to say if something is vegan or for vegetarian, that could be on Superscript. Likewise you can click somewhere else and choose Subscript and click OK, and this is smaller writing at the bottom. So it just makes it slightly smaller, and either Superscript is above or Subscript is just slightly below where your actual writing is. So that's a handy feature to add into your menu. So the next stage is to insert an image into our work. You can see here I've got an image of food, and I've got this saved in my documents. So what I can do here is click somewhere on my page, and I can click Insert Picture, and mine's saved on my desktop, so I can choose my item that I want here and insert that. Now this little box here is really handy. It's our layout options. By clicking this I can choose whether I want it behind the text, in front of the text, or wherever I want it. So I'm just going to tuck this behind my text, and I can then make it much larger, and I can fill the whole of the page with my image. I've not chosen a very good image because now I've enlarged it you can see it's quite blurry, but a higher quality image would work well in here. I've also got some elements here that I can look to colour, and I can choose to just go to a greyed out background so it's not as obvious, and that works quite well, or it would work quite well if I used a better quality image. But you can see what type of thing you can do by putting an image in the back of your work for your menu. So I wrap text and I use through, and then I use the colour changing on my actual image. When you select your image you'll be able to then format your picture to be a different colour tucked away in the background. Now you might want a page border in your work. Again, you can do this by just going to the design of your page. Let's just have a look what's going on. So from here I can go to design, and I've got things like page border. As I click on it, page border, and I can just choose a 3D shape or custom shape, and there's a lot of formatting in here. I can choose what colour I want my page border to be, the thickness of the line, whether it's double lines or not. So I'm going to go for this style, and the width of that I'm just going to make it slightly more obvious so we can see it, and click OK. So that's added the border into my work to give it another slight element, just to give it a more professional look rather than just a basic Word document. So that was page borders. You could give a page colour if you wanted to, but because you've got an image in the background of your work you probably don't want a page colour. So you might want to insert shapes if you've got something special. Again, insert shape, you might have a special offer, might want to put that into a star shape. So I'm just going to drag in a star. This could be my special meal deal offer. So you might want to just change the colour of this. You've got shape outline, what colour you want your outline. You might have your shape fill, same colour. You can add text into this by right click add text, and then you're able to write in here. Of course you're going to have to change the colour of your writing to work well with the actual information that's in there. And again, you can make that bigger, bold, so it stands out, and you can explain what your special offer is in there. So that should be another little skill you've got there, just to edit your information just a little bit more so you can see what's going on. So you're going to develop your menu. You're going to then explain what you've learnt today, what you found difficult, what you found easy, any new skills that you've acquired from this. And in your ePortfolio, explain about page orientation, margins, columns, and the format painter. Do say if there are new skills you've learnt today. Hopefully by the end of today's lesson you've developed your menu that looks quite impressive, and there's an example here for you to look at. You can make the prices up and then save your work and your ePortfolio.